In this video, we'll be looking at the kindergarten TEKS for numbers. Those TEKS are K.2a, K.2b, and K.2c. These are the TEKS that the students are going to be focused on counting, reading numbers, being able to write those numbers, and then representing what those numbers would look like. In each of these TEKS, students will have to work with objects and without objects. As with all of our math instruction, we want to make sure that the students go through the concrete, pictorial, abstract cycle. So before we start worrying about students writing numbers or we start having them just rote count numbers, we want to have them start counting. In front of you, you'll see lots of manipulatives that can be used. I like to call these counting manipulatives because it's individual pieces that either can be piled together or linked together or clipped together. But they allow the students to physically move something from one side of the paper or one side of their desk to the other in order to actually practice that counting. So we're going to start by looking at how a couple of these manipulatives can be used for counting and how the students can actually count them. Also notice that not all of these manipulatives are things that have to be purchased at teacher supply stores. You can just as easily get a bag of M&Ms to practice counting, and these are just beans that have been painted red. We're going to begin actually modeling how we don't want students to count and the mistake that they can actually make. And that would be if we were to count the M&Ms, that students would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can see that they're just going to keep repeating and not know that they have counted that piece and I don't want to count it again. So we want the students to actually get in the habit of counting and moving things out of the way until they better understand or have better methods about counting. So we would want the students to count this way: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now the students can see that they've had a pile, it's a total of 7, and they've moved them out of the way and they can't count something a second time. That's where I think these little links that we can put together to make a chain are really helpful, because it requires me to have to take something from the pile and put it together as I count. 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so then I can count them again: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To make sure that I have the correct amount, but again, I don't have anything that I can double count again or recount something over. As students are working on their counting, we also want to make sure that they have something called conservation of number. This is where, regardless of the arrangement or the order that I have the numbers, students will still know this is how many I have. So we would want the students to first of all count how many we have: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we would ask the students, how many cubes do you have? And we would want the students to respond, I have 10 cubes. And we can give them sentence stems to help them use their language in order to tell us how many they have of whatever item: M&Ms, frogs, linking chains, or whatever. When they tell us that they have 10, we want to take the same group right in front of the students and just change the arrangement and ask the students, how many do we have? How many cubes do we have? So if the student counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and says, I have 10 cubes, even though they counted the cubes correctly, they don't have conservation of number. They're not able to just say, wait, you didn't add any more, you didn't take any more away, you just changed the way that they're arranged. We want the students to be at that point. Having students that are able to know that this is 10 regardless of the arrangement is going to lead them further on into math with their conservation of number, being able to count on, using other strategies as they move into first grade. Students will be counting throughout the entire school year. One part or one area that they will always count is in their math chat time. counting numbers, reciting numbers, counting objects will be, it's a part of Math Chat that's done daily. We also want to embed or kind of hide this counting in everything that we do. If we are, their kids are outside at recess, have them count how many stairs it is to go down the slide. If they're bouncing a ball, ask them to count how many times can you bounce the ball. Can you bounce the ball 10 times, and see that they can sit there and they can count to 10. If they're walking to go to the restroom, have them count how many steps did it take to go to the restroom. Any different part that they can be doing to count throughout the day is just going to support their number sense even more. And don't forget to have the students count backwards as well. And we can kind of make that counting backwards just like we would do if we were doing a countdown for a rocket blasting off or something. So we want the students to count backwards as well. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Have the students count forward and backwards with and without objects as you work through numbers. The next part of these TEKS is for students to be able to read, write, and represent numbers. So we want students to be able to look at a number card or a number written on a wall, a number written on a clock, a number written on a door, and be able to say this number is 6, this number is 12, this number is 20. Students do not have to know the word form. They don't need to be able to write that on their own. That would just be something extra that you could have included on a word wall or on a number wall that they may have. From these numbers that the students are reading, we can have them go ahead and represent. One activity that you can do is something called Show Me, and you just show the students the number 6. Put the number 6 on the board, show it on a PowerPoint slide, and then the students have to use whatever manipulative they may be using and allow them to have the choice of which manipulative they want to use. And then they need to show you 6. So you would say, show me, represent or show the number to the students. They would count out 6, move their other pieces out of the way, and then they would show you 6. And you can say 1, 2, 3, show me, and they can move a piece of paper that they were hiding their work under, or if they were drawing, they could turn the board around, but they would then show you that number. Students also have to be able to write the numbers. So we could show them a picture or a representation of the numbers, and we could do the exact same thing, show me, same activity, with this. So we could show on the document camera a collection of items or a picture, and the students could then count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we would be looking for the students is for them to write the number 5 on a whiteboard, on a piece of paper, to show how many that they've represented. We want to keep in mind that for kindergartners, it's not about them making this perfect 5. If the 5 ends up being backwards, but we still know that it's a 5, we're just going to kindly remind them, okay, remember that the 5 is drawn this way, and we're going to move on. We're not going to penalize them. If they say, no, this is a 5, then we're just going to keep working with them on that, just like with their letter development that they have in kindergarten. As we progress through concrete pictorial abstract, we can have the students do the exact same activities, but instead of using these manipulatives that we can move out of the way, we can give the students pictures, and they can count a set of pictures or a set of items in a picture and represent the same way and still practice. So the students could count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then they could practice where they're writing their numbers, and they could write 6 next to the number, next to the pictures. Again, we can provide sentence stems for them to help them develop their language even more. There are 6 Statue of Liberty pictures. And just to recap, this is our number sense TEKS. We're working with the students on counting, reading, and writing and representing numbers. Remember to start out with manipulatives, give the kids lots and lots of practice of counting, model how to count for them. If they're not doing it correctly, allow peer-to-peer modeling for how to do that. Provide the students sentence stems. There are 6 Statue of Liberty pictures. As you progress and move from concrete, move on to the pictorial, and then finally they should just be able to work on just rote counting of numbers 0 through 20 forward and backward.